Hi guys. So let's just get started. And usually, what happens is people jump on as we continue to go. So this space today is us covering emerging fields in Web3, and today we have about 7 different emerging career paths. Some of these you may already heard of, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into them about what it really takes to get on one of these career paths, the educational requirements, if any, and or the experience you need and how you can present that experience, what the pay ranges are, and really where that could take you in the future, as well as some of the different educational courses that you might be interested in taking. Some that we share today are from others. Currently, they're free and some are paid. But for all of these, you can look forward to Third Academy also presenting courses in the future. So I've added Paul Rita up here as well as a speaker. Mariana, welcome to jump up as well, because we're going to be talking about all these different career paths. So today we're talking about crypto forensic investigators, Unity developers, which is kind of like AR, VR, game developers, blockchain project management, UX, UI design, Web3 writing and script writing, marketing management, and community management. So, we're covering all those in detail, and we'll be sharing some of these careers. These are really careers that we see the most right now requested on crypto job boards, and kind of going from there. So, this will be a space maybe that we host again. Because what we do on our Third Academy Discord is we do have a job board, and our job board is categorized in different channels. And so every day we're posting different jobs, and we're really seeing which channels have most of the jobs being posted in them. On a regular basis, so we're able to kind of share a little bit of that information with you. So at the end of the space, we will be sharing details to where we've found this information, to some of the courses and things that we're talking about today, and that will be in our Discord as well. So if you're interested in getting any of those links, feel free to jump in there at the end. As well as digital downloads. One of the jobs that I'm going to be sharing today, as well as Rita and Marianne, will be sharing. It really has a digital download attached to it, which is so interesting, that I kind of got lost in it this morning, and I'm sure you will as well if you want to venture onto that career path. So we want to remind everyone as well that this is a community space, so feel free to come up on stage. You can request to speak, and you can ask questions, share your opinion, engage, and if you found or maybe you see a different career that's emerging, or something interesting, feel free to come up and share it with us. We'd love to hear from you. And if you don't feel like speaking, but you do have something to say today, you can also use the comment down below. We read those and we share those while we are speaking as well. So to dive right in, we have about 7 potential career paths to talk about today, and we're going to get started with that. So blockchain technology is really revolutionizing many industries across the board, from real estate to supply chain management to sales of luxury goods, and even customer reward systems like Starbucks Odyssey, which is currently in beta mode. We will share the link to that in our Discord because it does look interesting, but you do have to have a Starbucks reward account already. So if you go to Starbucks, and you have one, you can sign up for beta. Where I live, I actually don't have a Starbucks where I live because I live in such a small country town that there is no Starbucks. But for anybody else that has one, feel free to do that. So Starbucks Odyssey currently offers NFT themed, coffee themed NFTs utilizing Polygon, and they convert their rewards into real world experiences. So that's something new that's being developed, and exciting to see. So really across the board, blockchain is changing so many different industries. So we are in exciting times, but these times also call for more security measures and a better understanding of the ecosystem. So the first career that we're going to dive into a little bit is the blockchain investigator or crypto forensics investigator. It's a really interesting career path, actually. So what these people do is they investigate illicit blockchain activity like ransomware and crypto scams by tracing funds as they are transferred across multiple tokens or chains. And you have to be able to report your investigative findings with a fully auditable data that will stand up in court. So what you're doing is you're really analyzing blockchains, being able to put all of that data into something that's auditable, and being able to present that and having your findings stand up in the court of law. So cryptocurrency based crime hit an all-time high in 2021, with illicit addresses receiving $14 billion over the course of the year, which is up from $7.8 billion in 2020. Although we should know that legitimate usage for crypto far outweighs criminal activity, and transactions involving illicit addresses only represented 0.15% of crypto transaction volume in 2021, despite the huge number that I just kind of shared with you. So examples of that would be in 2019 there was Plus Token Ponzi scheme that was kind of like busted wide open, and a lot of people kind of got in trouble for that one. In 2021, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission filed charges against several investment scams. The FBI took down the Revel ransomware strain, and the Office of Foreign Assets Control sanctioned Suex and Chadex, which is two Russian-based crypto services which were heavily involved in money laundering. So I think one of the biggest kind of like scam things that we've seen in the space is rug pulls. And that's when developers build what appears to be legitimate crypto projects before taking investors' money and then disappearing. And so a lot of the investigators, or like crypto forensic investigators, will look at rug pulls. And one of the most interesting ways that you could kind of find a rug pull would be, I guess, on your own, and to just be aware of it. If you see like an NFT project, but the project itself is linked to a Twitter or something, so they have like a website, but the website has maybe a lot of spelling errors, it doesn't look very legitimate up front. Then they have a Discord that is private to join, and they might have a Twitter page, but their Twitter page really doesn't have any activity, doesn't really have a real community around it. People aren't commenting or sharing or posting, it's just kind of dead. And then if you kind of are able to right click on your computer, if you're using a computer, then you can kind of see like the source code of the project site as well, and it might be interesting to look at for you. But you can kind of tell from there, from those things, that might be a rug pull, and that's what I would caution against. I have one that I want to mention right now, but I won't mention it. I might share it in private, but I just think that that's something to be aware of, because that was something that Chainalysis and the investigators at Chainalysis were heavily looking into, a lot of the rug pulls. So 90% of the total value lost to rug pulls reported in 2021 was attributed to one fraudulent exchange, which was Thodex, whose CEO disappeared soon after the exchange halted users' ability to withdraw funds. And overall, cyber criminals have laundered over $33 billion worth of cryptocurrency since 2017, with most over time moving their currency to centralized exchanges. But because of the transparent nature of blockchains, illicit activity is more easily traced between wallets and services when criminals want to convert crypto into cash. So the last two things I will share about that would be, usually if you get into the role of crypto forensics, there's two different kinds of things that you might be looking into. Of course, there's many more, but two of the main ones would be theft or scams. So theft would be addressing these concerns with individuals that have like stolen cryptocurrency. So there usually will be crypto addresses associated with theft, where now they're actually not putting those funds into centralized exchanges. What they're doing is they're moving their funds to DeFi platforms and DeFi protocols instead for money laundering purposes. So we know that in 2021, DeFi platforms saw over $750 million worth of cryptocurrency move through, and North Korea affiliated hackers in particular were responsible for $400 million worth of cryptocurrency hacks. And they specifically, instead of using more centralized exchanges, which we saw in the past, moved to using DeFi protocols for their specific money laundering. And then that would be more sophisticated. And then we have scammers, which usually send the majority of their funds to addresses on centralized exchanges, which are more easily, I would say, traced because there's a lot of compliance protocols around using centralized exchanges. So sometimes individuals will use crypto to launder funds from crimes that happen offline as well. So we might think of cryptocurrency related crimes as just being in cryptocurrency, but if somebody is using fiat in order to commit crimes because it's untraceable, and then later on, for some reason, who knows, wants to convert that into crypto in order to launder funds, they take that from offline and put it online. In such cases, the investigators or anyone here that's looking to get into that field will then begin to look at transaction patterns that suggest users are trying to avoid compliance screens. So that would be illicit addresses may send a large number of transactions just below the $1,000 mark to avoid checks, reporting, and information sharing, which may indicate users are doing something called structuring, or in that case, it just means that they're breaking up large payments into smaller ones just below that $1,000 reporting threshold so that they, I guess, can move it more easily. So we will be sharing an entire cryptocurrency related download on this, and it's through Chainalysis, who has a report on the last year's criminal activities, and then of course it links to a lot of their education around becoming a crypto forensics investigator. So some of the ways that you could get into that role if you're interested is through Chainalysis and or the Blockchain Council. So Chainalysis has 4 different courses that kind of relate to what I just shared. They have investigation specialist, Ethereum investigation specialist, because actually in 2022 it said that most of the illicit activity was not done through Bitcoin. That's like the least one. It was usually done through alternative coins and or Ethereum. And they also have a risk and regulation training and a KYT training, which is Know Your Transaction. As well as Blockchain Council also has blockchain architect and blockchain expert certification, which I looked through this morning and it did look pretty good, and I looked for reviews, but we will be sharing that as well. And I know the Third Academy also has Blockchain Basics course coming up, so you can really set your foundations in blockchain before moving on to a career path like this if you're interested. So if we have any questions on that one, I'm not sure if I'll be able to answer any in-depth questions, but I just found that one career path that was new to be so interesting. So I wanted to share that one on first, and we can, of course, share all of the information we have as well, links to all of the courses, certificates, and the digital download in our Discord. All right, so the next career path that looked really exciting and it had some free educational resources was Unity Developer, which is AR or VR developer. So Unity Developer is responsible for building games for various platforms based on the Unity network, and perhaps you've seen these. I think they're also developing metaverse and metaverse games as well. So they create sample Web3 game projects using Unity game engines, provide technical advisory to other members of their teams. They participate in in-person or virtual meetups. And because it is a developer role, it is more of a technical role. And the experience is usually 1 to 3 years experience as a Unity game developer, which I really think if you went through the training that they have and then kind of started to build your portfolio and reached out to other maybe people building games or projects and helped them, you can build a portfolio in, let's say, a year and be able to kind of shop that around in order to maybe gain an internship or an entry level role as a Unity developer. And you also, in some of the job descriptions that I saw, it was saying that if you had 1 year of smart contract development in Solidity, then that would be a plus. Sometimes not required, but it did look like it was a major plus if you were looking to get into those roles, as well as you needed great writing skills or like okay writing skills in order to write clear documentation on what you were doing and developing. So Unity has Unity Learn. So we will also share this. It's learn.unity.com, and they have a number of pathways. And this morning I was looking at it because I wanted to see if they were free, whether you had to pay for them. So the pathways are Unity Essentials. It's a guide to learning everything about Unity. Then they have Junior Programmer, which is 12 weeks. It teaches you how to code and get you started 0 to job ready in order to become a Unity developer or a Unity Junior Programmer. Then they have a another 10-week course, which allows you to level up your understanding of Unity with creative aspects of the engine, which is called Creative Core. Another one for 6 weeks, which is a virtual reality development course, which allows you to start developing for VR and prepare you for a job in the virtual reality industry. And then the last one that they offer is 8 weeks, and it is mobile augmented reality development. So you'll be learning about developing AR apps which are compatible with iOS and Android devices. And actually, when I checked this out, what it asks you to do is you sign up for basically just a Unity account. And it's very easy. It's just your email, your name, the very basics of signing up. Then you have your Unity account, which kind of shares with you everything that you're currently doing and the learning pathways that you choose. And each of these are actually free, which I thought was amazing. I'm not sure if they'll be always free, but I'm guessing Unity itself wants more people to learn and actually understand how to use Unity and how to develop with Unity. I think it's better for them to have more people knowing that. So these learning pathways are actually free, and it looks pretty good to I mean the one that is the most lengthy is only 12 weeks, so 3 months, right? You spend 3 months time kind of going through that, and then after that building up your portfolio, and you could have a whole new career as a Unity developer. So it's very interesting. We will share the link to that in our Discord. I don't know if anybody has questions on that or any experience with that, but some of the games that people were building, as an example, did look interesting. They were kind of a bit basic, but like the students in the courses as well have shared the games that they're developing. There's one called Chicken Loop, where it's a number of like robotic chickens that kind of look like they're going at war with each other. Then there's a factory crane game. There's a space shooter game. So you kind of learn how to build these games, and it looks kind of very exciting. And all of those games were developed while people were going through the junior programmer course. So that was the second career path that we had to share as a new like emerging field kind of in Web3. I know game development has been around, but I think now we're talking more VR, AR, and metaverse related topics here. So, any questions on the last two, or anything anybody would like to share so far? All right, so we're gonna move on then to UX and UI designer. UX and UI design is basically user experience and user interface, and it's actually one of the I think one of the roles that I see the most posted, that has been, I think, starting more to emerge over the last like 3 months. And I think that's because, yes, I saw those jobs being posted in the past, of course, but now more than ever, I think we're moving into a place in Web3 and in crypto where we are really concerned with bringing more people in, especially as we kind of move away from maybe just the single, um, like profile picture projects and into more complex, like user interface design or UX design problems. So, UX or UI designer will be working with NFT platforms and projects, assisting mobile wallets, metaverse platforms, really anything where a user will need to interact with, right now, what will look like a screen of some kind. And so they're usually challenged with creating something user friendly and also technically accurate. What happens is they will need to research in order to understand how users interact with the project or the app or the platform, where users get stuck, if something is not easy to understand, if a button is hard to find, things like that. So, actually, a role like this does take, at times, a lot of research. You might have to be interviewing individuals that have been using the app. You might have to interview people who haven't used the app yet, or introduce the app to somebody completely new, and watch how they go through it and see what happens to their um, ability to kind of function with the app itself, and ask a lot of questions and do a lot of data collection in that way. So there's also, I wanted to share with you a famous UX designer, Boss Ording. So he has a interview on YouTube. We will put in our Discord as well, but he's kind of famous, because he created the bouncing ball effect on the iPhone. So if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the screen, it like bounces back up, and he's credited with that invention among other things. But that kind of made him famous in the user design world because it was just so innovative at the time. And so uh, things like that, but now for, crypto wallets and NFT platforms and things. So UX and UI designers are actually very important, and I really think that, although we're seeing more job postings for this, we will only see more as this field continues to grow. Because we saw, like, as of February 2021, and now this is 2021, so I think the number has increased. In the UK alone, 9.8 million people owned some form of cryptocurrency, and as of today, 65 million people worldwide use blockchain technology. And that, I think that's fascinating, because one of the biggest things that we continually talk about in this space is mass adoption and mass onboarding. And so that number can be people that are interacting with it in some way or form, but in order for it to like catch on, let's say, even more, we need things to be easier to use, less complicated, and more trustworthy. So examples would be digital wallets and sites need to have very simple user interface, where it's so simple that, a child can use it. They have to have safety. So an example of that would be when MetaMask asks you to confirm your secret backup freeze. It'll give you like a uh, kind of like an empty space, and then underneath it'll give you a list of a bunch of different words, and it's up to you to like choose the right words that it gave you previously to like confirm that you know your secret backup phrase. And that's done in such an easy way visually, which we can share an image of it in our Discord as well. Visually, that whoever designed that user interface and experience really thought about it in a way that the user itself could go through it and say, okay, now I know what I'm doing. And as well, pop-ups, like if you've already done something and it doesn't require any more information, or if you've put something wrong into some wrong information in, what should happen on your computer or on your mobile screen, there should be a pop-up that comes up and lets you know that. And as well as a pop-up for maybe security concerns or something. Another UX concern or challenge that we're being met with today is helping users to understand new terminology that's needed to move forward in this space. We have so many people today that I even talk to where I live. You'd be surprised by the number. When I hear like, oh, 65 million people worldwide have used blockchain, I think that's everybody, but really it's not. In my town, nobody really knows, or maybe some people do, but nobody that I've actually talked to knows what a crypto wallet even is, or like how to set up a crypto wallet or anything like that. So it's fascinating. We still need help with that, and we need to improve onboarding. So one of the easiest way that you might find yourself exploring this role would be to explore in Coursera. Google has offered a Google UX and UI course. Coursera usually costs like $65 a month. I'm in Canada, or you can audit the course for free. So it depends whether you care about getting a certificate or whether you care that you can just show that you know what you're doing. So you could audit the course, go through it, and create your portfolio. And from there, from having maybe like maybe a more basic portfolio after going through that, you could then reach out to blockchain projects and start to kind of assist, or maybe apply for internships or continue to build that portfolio. I think a lot of these um, pathways that we're talking about today would require that. And I know from personal experience that for me, just taking some very like um, I would say non-traditional courses, and then building up a proper portfolio. That's really how I was able to obtain many of the roles that I have been in. So UX and UI design is going to be big. I would say to continue to research that if you're interested in that. And if you have any questions and we want to talk about that further, we might be able to even have an additional space where we bring on a blockchain UX and UI designer to dive deeper into that pathway. So the next three we're going to be discussing is Web3 writers, script writers, marketing manager, community manager, and then we have blockchain project manager. So Web3 writing and script writing, these the following pathways or career pathways that have been I would say like catching steam do require understanding of blockchain knowledge. So if you're able to like learn more about the fundamentals of blockchain, like I said, Third Academy is coming out with blockchain basics course, um, or in any other way. This will only help you as you move forward. So Web3 writing is really basically you can do articles, content writing, script writing for long form YouTube videos and or short form videos, because those still sometimes require scripts, and or you can assist with the back end of podcasting. And I can say from experience that this is actually a really high paying job, or at least it feels high paying. So you can start out anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 per month and up, sometimes even 6 to 10K per month. And that would depend on whether you're freelancing, whether you are hourly, or whether you're running kind of your own business and maybe you're offering it through a subscription model, which is really, like, I would say, a new way that I've been seeing writers offer their services. So you could go the traditional route of creating your portfolio and then applying to jobs. We've seen a few jobs being posted recently for editors at blockchain and cryptocurrency content platforms, jobs for Web3 and blockchain script writers, and of course, I would say more like almost journalists at the same time. And so a lot of these will just require you to, one, have a good understanding of the English language, or the language that is required in a certain job posting. Editing skills, so you'll have to be able to edit your own work, even if you're going to be working with an editor. What happens is you'll write out the content and you'll send it to an editor, and they will assist you in editing it, but you should really have it edited to the best of your ability before you send it. And that means proper punctuation, and you can use things like Grammarly, but that also doesn't help you at the same time with, I would say, the readability of it, because today people don't read things the way we think that they do. The New Yorker has their articles in like 3 lines basically, and there's no spacing. But that's not really how everyday people read. They read one sentence, then maybe 3 sentences, and then 1 sentence again. So it's like bim, 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 bim. And so those are like some of the skills that might be required, if you're looking to enter into that, is like understanding the way people read, the editing process, and so on. And then from there, it would be to build up that portfolio piece of it. So in order to build up a portfolio in that way, and it's really through Web3 and blockchain, is where I think people are being, if you compare it to other jobs, other roles, for some reason in the Web3 and blockchain space, people are still getting paid better than than in writing for like maybe beauty or something like that. That doesn't have any technology base to it. So in order to build up your portfolio, you could reach out to different projects that you admire and you want to work with, and offer to write content in exchange for adding that to your portfolio. And the one thing that I would say as my tip there would be to make sure that they allow you to include your name and maybe a link to wherever you are most frequent on social media today. And if they allow you 2 links and you are really Web3 focused, I would also include a link to like a decentralized social media platform like Lens, if you are on there. And then share your writing on Lens as well. And that will allow you to network with people who actually need your services. So that would be with applying to traditional jobs or freelancing roles. And then the second route that you could go once you've built up a portfolio, and again, you have a firm understanding of the space that you're writing for, which would be blockchain and or Web3. And within there, you have so many different niches that you could really dive into and that are being developed. I saw a whole content platform based just on Web3 gaming that had writers writing articles for Web3 games. There's also now like digital comics and comics that are utilizing NFTs, and a whole movement that's starting around that. The people that are interested in comic books who also want to maybe get paid for writing content could start writing about this emerging field in the comic industry as well. And it kind of is cool because from experience, you could get invited to different conferences and be able to connect with people. So I would say that's a more exciting career field. And then the second way that you could go about it was once you have your portfolio built up, you can actually offer a subscription model, which is the newest form. And of course, you could accept payments of cryptocurrency as well. So the subscription model kind of looks like you might need either to create your own website if you know how to create a basic website, and or you would pay for a hosting model or something like Webflow, and maybe that costs you like $33 a month, but it's very easy to start. You'd put the examples of your work up there, and then you would say per month, if you want to work with me, then I charge, $2,000 or $4,000 per month, and you could pay monthly, quarterly, or annually. And if you subscribe to my services, then you get added onto a Trello board. So Trello was kind of like an organizational board, and all of your clients then would receive their own Trello boards, and they can just add their projects to the Trello board. And so now really all you're doing is every morning you're waking up, you're looking at your Trello board, you're writing out the articles or the scripts or anything like that, and you're sending it to your clients. And some of the topics that you might be exploring, depending on the roles that you're in, might be the latest NFT projects, blockchain news, blockchain educational content, things like that, or maybe more investigative journalism at times. Maybe I wouldn't call it investigative journalism, but like journalism that asks you to go out and talk to people, get some resources and references, and write an article based on that. So one of the examples that I have is an article that I previously wrote for data dignity in Web3. The example for that would be having to do a lot of research in order to understand what's happening with our data, why is Web 2 data different from Web 3, and talk to 3 different people in the field in order to write that article. But it pays handsomely, so that is one of the career paths covered today. If anybody has questions or concerns or opinions on that career path, feel free to ask questions as well before we move on to the next one. All right, so we covered crypto forensics investigator, Unity developer, AR VR developer, UX UI designer, Web3 writer, and our final 3 are marketing manager, community manager, and blockchain project manager. And of course, all the information will be added into our Discord. So marketing management is, I would say, one of the most requested roles so far that I see keep being posted on job boards. And one of the most frequent channels that we have in our Discord job board that is activated almost every single day is the marketing channel. And I truly believe that is because marketing is such a vast field. There's many different areas of marketing, but it's needed now more than ever. And it's the same as what we just talked about with the UX and UI design. People need simplified design. People need better onboarding, safety, and trust. And marketing helps for us to reach new people. So I don't know, Marianne, if you wanted to share a little bit about your experience in marketing management, how you got into the role, and really what it might look like from the inside, so people can understand how they can then perhaps get into this new role and why it's different from, let's say, Web 2 being a marketing manager, and how much experience do you actually need with blockchain technology or other Web 3 technologies.
Sure. Yeah, I think I agree with you in everything you mentioned before. It is in high demand marketing roles, and you have like a variety of projects that are looking for marketing roles, and the field is growing. And also, I think I mentioned before that there's a lot of transferable skills that you have, and you need to find out what from your experience, previous experience in Web2, can really work and can be really useful for you in Web3. But also something like a trend that I'm seeing in this space is that lately, I mean, if you take a look at, I don't know, let's say a year ago or a year and a half ago, the situation was a little bit different because there was not so many people in the field, in the space. So probably the requirements from the projects were not that like high, but now they, besides your knowledge of marketing and your previous experience, they are also asking a little bit more of knowledge on technical issues, on blockchain, and understanding of how the tech part of the projects works and the products work. So I think, I mean, one suggestion I have for marketers in the space is spend your free time learning about blockchain, learning about DeFi, learning about the tech issues too, because you need that for your job. Because when you're working, it depends, of course, it depends a lot on the kind of project you're working on. But the thing is, once, I mean, the space is growing, and there's a lot of projects that are very specific and very technical. And if you can't really grasp the core of the project and the meaning of what they're doing, there's no way you can perform well as a marketer. So I think that's a little shift that I'm seeing in the space, that marketers need a lot of more technical, skills, than a year ago. But I don't know how you see this, but yeah, that's something I'm seeing, and I think it's useful. So my recommendation is spend at least, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours a week. Try to take a course, try to take a, I don't know, tutorial, dedicate some time to watch YouTube videos to understand a little bit more, or even try to like force yourself to research a project and try to understand the project at least once once per week, because it's going to be really useful to be able to like keep growing with the space and have more to offer to a project when you're hired.
I agree with that completely. I know in the past in marketing management, one of the things was when I really was, I had a brief role. I had a brief stint as a marketing manager, and I will share with you from experience that one of the biggest things was when you get into the role, if you're in a different kind of project. My project was talking to people who really were heavily into the blockchain space at that time, and being able to have conversation with them about new developments, about what's going on, about why decentralized finances mattered, and what areas of the world were actually being developed under that, and all these different things did play a role in that. And beyond that, I would say, just from some very like quick advice, if you're looking to get into the role of a Web3 marketer, because there's so many different marketing domains. There's like funnels, there's email marketing, there's social media marketing and management, there's building brand awareness,
Growth.
all of that stuff. You can kind of like see who out there is actually really good at that. And I think especially on Twitter nowadays, the Web3 community is huge on Twitter. Or there's people that were able to grow quite a big brand. I would say more brand awareness, or at least like a bigger following, in order to accelerate their brand using Twitter, and then build their newsletters on top of that. And then from that, they kind of expanded their business. So they combined social media marketing with, I would say, like written content and email marketing, and it's great to see. But they used some really great strategies. Like they had copy, and I could tell that they were using different copy in some of their Twitter posts to make it easier for people to read, or they had one-liners that really hooked you into their Twitter thread, and or they spend a lot of time to come up with information and make it like, yeah, it's a Twitter thread, but now I'm saving this, I'm bookmarking it, I'm wanting to come back to this later. And then of course their newsletter was added onto the bottom of the thread, and now they've they're kind of like growing something. They've just added fuel to the fire. And then you could also look into like incentivization models and how is like bigger brands in Web3 doing their marketing, right? Like in the beginning of this talk, we talked about Starbucks Odyssey. They're in their beta program for their rewards program for Starbucks. So if you're already a rewards user, now you join the beta and you're getting coffee themed NFTs as rewards. Does that look like? That's the marketing team and the community team working together. And how are they marketing that to people? And why is there a wait list? Because now it's a bit exclusive, and so marketing doesn't sleep. Mariana, do you want to share more? I don't think it sleeps. Like it just continues.
No, absolutely. I agree. And I think that there's going to be a big opportunity soon as adoption grows. And because there's a lot of Web2 brands looking to the opportunity to jump to Web3, and they are starting to use, as you mentioned, Starbucks, starting to use Web3 tools and resources to kind of include new targets and new segments of their target. So I think there's also a niche there. Like thinking about Web2 brands and how we as marketers can help them to join the space in a smooth way. And so I think there's a lot to do still. So yeah, definitely agree. And there's, you just need to think about it. And if in 5 minutes you can think like 1,000 different ways you can help Web3 brands and Web2 brands to grow in the space.
And some brief advice on how to get into that role. I would suggest we have a Web3 Marketing 101 course that's free to take right now through Third Academy. As well, maybe you start a blog, your own newsletter, you're writing about developments that you see happening in the Web3 space, different ways of marketing, different things that you might try or have tried in the past. And from there, you're kind of like building your own portfolio. And I would say, your own profiles on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and of course on decentralized social platforms would be pretty big as well for applying. I know that roles that I've applied for in the past usually for some reason always ask for your LinkedIn link or your Twitter link. That might be to see how you operate on social media, it might be to see what you've done in the past, or maybe just to see more of who you are. But I think it's always good to put your best foot forward on social media and make sure you have that. And I know Rita has a great Twitter presence as well. So, Rita, do you want to share anything about building your personal pages? Because I know one time you said like, oh my gosh, in the last Twitter space, I think you said I spend so much time building a good Twitter presence. So did you want to share any tips on that?
Yeah, well, great space so far. One thing I just want to quickly talk on that because I was hoping that when we get the community management part, I know that we have a lot of people who have interest in that and they don't really know how to get started. That was something I was hoping that I could talk on, but then I could quickly speak on this regarding building a social presence. I think it's very important, right? And you know how Twitter has become like the hub, right? I don't think there's anybody literally saying they're interested in Web3 that are not on Twitter, right? So, and if you're on Twitter, is the first way or the first thing that anybody will use to judge you, right? Before they see what you're able to do. So even as marketers or whatever you choose to do, that's the because people come to me and they say, okay, how do I start exhibiting my skills? How do I get started? I just tell them just go and do it on Twitter, right? But if you're able to do that on Twitter, then you can as well be able to replicate it for other things, right? So building a social brand is very important, not just even as although it's very important as marketing because, as a marketer, if you have a huge following, that's like an added bonus for you, right? So that's just what I want to say. It's very important, and we need to like put in extra effort into that. So yeah.
Awesome. And the last thing before we move on to community management and then finally blockchain project management, I don't know, Mariana, if you wanted to share, like, your LinkedIn is really great because you kind of show examples of everything that you've done. Did you want to share maybe how you did that, or like how you kind of collected that over your like time with marketing in Web3? Because I think that's a huge thing that people still need, is like showing their proof of work in terms of like actually what they've done.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a challenge because sometimes even when you're working on something, you don't like, it's hard for you to see the best way to show it. And but I think that the best is to try to focus on the value you can add to a project and try to make it like like try to put a little bit of everything, but what is relevant for someone who's looking to hire you. For example, try to understand what's like the true value you're adding to something, and like your achievements, but also as Rita mentioned, I think it's super important, like just be there on your socials and try to share things that add value to the community. So if you find something interesting, articles, if you're not writing, you can share something, something that, I don't know, somebody else has write, or everything that can like help to provide a better idea of what your interests are or who you are. I think that's great. And also like keep building your profile, like with courses or um, with more education. But and in this case, I'm not talking about, I don't know, college degrees or anything, but small things, sometimes tools that you are using that are going to be helpful for your job. So I think everything helps. And sometimes having a third person, like taking a look at that and giving you feedback on that, it's really helpful too, because sometimes you don't see a couple of things, but when a friend or colleague see it, and that maybe you find out that something is missing, or maybe you're giving a wrong impression. But yeah, sometimes when you change fields, like what I did at some point of my career, it's important to see how relevant your past experience is for the role you're looking for, or for the career path you're taking right now. So sometimes you what we usually do is we upload things to our LinkedIn, and then we forget what we put there. So sometimes to take a few times, like a little time to review that and to review your past experiences and see how are those experiences relevant to your present and future. That's useful too.
Awesome. Yeah. Just like Mariana said, you can pretty much put anything on your LinkedIn. I know if you do something on Twitter, like let's say you write a like really fire Twitter thread, you can actually put the link and maybe like add a graphic and add that into your work experience. You can add, if you host a Twitter space, or you help to put a Twitter space, add that into your experience with the link. Any articles that you write, link them, and it kind of just allows people to not only like go onto your LinkedIn page and like read what you've done, but now they're like, oh, cool, this person has actually linked to examples of things that they've done, even if it's as small as, like I said, hosting a Twitter space for a Web3 project or something. Now you're showing proof that you've done that. If you, any single thing that you've done at all, even if it's your own, right? Like, let's say in the beginning you don't have solid experience in a Web3 role, but you want to show that you're doing something. If you have started to write a blog or a newsletter on Substack, put that in your experience on LinkedIn and link to the different articles in your Substack. If you make educational YouTube videos or something, link out to your videos. If you have assisted a project, and even just as a hobby, or even just like as something that you just did, maybe you didn't get paid for, where you connected a partnership of some kind, add that into your experience, because it's all going to matter, and it'll just be so much easier for potential employers and recruiters to go onto your LinkedIn page and see what you've done instead of kind of having to almost like trust your word for it. I think that's until we move into like resume wallets and things like that, using LinkedIn in that way, or in the way like Mariana has begun to use it, will kind of show us proof of work. In even with us using, you know, a centralized social media platform. So we're gonna move into community management as our next career path, and then the final one is blockchain project management. So community management is a role that we are continually seeing in Web3, and I think again it's only going to increase because people are putting more emphasis on community and what that means, not only as a role that can also help the marketing department, because with community we get voice of customer data, we get to understand what our community needs and wants, and really help a business to thrive and flourish and continue to thrive and flourish, but also understanding the many different forms of community. Like, you could have a customer support community, you could have a gaming community, you could have an educational based community. We're just gonna have more and more of these as we continue, and more roles as we continue. So, Rita, did you want to share with us your how you got started in community management, some of your best tips, and we'll kind of go from there, because this is a career path that you kind of know, because you are the new community management lead for Third Academy.
Yes, thank you very much, Kali. I think there's something that you mentioned that I was going to mention. When you said it, I was like, yeah, right, because how Web3 has sort of like brought community to the forefront, right? And as a result of this, it has led to the demand for community managers. I think that's one of things that led to this emerging career path, right? So because people are focusing on community, right? You need somebody to be there to listen to your community's queries and everything, right? But then, getting started in community management is not something that you can just wake up tomorrow and say you want to be a community manager, right? Because you have to, I believe that you have to feel it, you have to be in it to do it, right? You have to feel it, be in it, and then you are able to do it, right? So we cannot, you mentioned something earlier, I think it was when you were talking about the you I think it was the crypto forensic or the UI UX. You mentioned you need to learn about blockchain basics, and I think that's important for any career path, right? Because you cannot want to learn this particular these things. Most of these careers exist in Web2, right? But then the way that we operate in Web3 is a bit different, right? Not entirely, right? Is a bit different. Now, you cannot skip understanding the underlying technology and then go ahead to say you want to build it. I'll just make this very short because we're like 1 hour already. So you cannot skip that, right? So if you want to get started, you need to understand blockchain basics, right? DeFi, NFTs, metaverse, GameFi, right? You need to understand them. Most time, these things may, because I remember earlier when I started, like about almost 3 years ago. There are some things I read, and I go back. I'm trying to like layer two. I'm trying to understand what's layer two, what's optimism. I go back and reread it, and then I try to figure it out, right? Because you need to know beforehand that these things, it's a nascent technology, so you need to take time to understand it, right? So after learning blockchain technology, the next thing that you have to do, you have to be in a community, right? Because if you are not in a community, you will not see how things are done, right? You will not know how something in a community makes you feel, right? You will not know how other people are reacting to it, right? So if you are in a community, if you see the way things are being done, it's easier for you to, when you have the privilege to manage a community, it's easier for you to want to listen to the people, because your experience, let's say in a good community, because there's some projects that do not really pay emphasis, right, to their community. But then in a community that emphasis is placed on the community, right, and you see how things are done, how things are going smoothly, right, you are not able to replicate it. And then also another thing about being a community manager is you need to understand, aside from having good communication skills, empathy, and all of the people skills that you need to have, you need to also understand Web3 marketing, right? You're not a marketer, but it's important, right? You need to understand how these things will contribute to your role, right? So this is, I know there are a lot of people who come up today and they say they are community managers and everything, right? If you want to be a community manager, you have to be willing to put in the work, right? Because I think also, like Kali mentioned earlier, if you check our job boards, right, with the marketing and the community, you keep seeing the vacancies every time for community. So if you take time to create an edge for yourself, right, it's easy for you to take advantage of this part, right? So that's, I know at the time is already fast spent. Maybe we'll dedicate a space one day, to just talk about all of these things, right? But then if you come into our community on Discord, you find access to these job boards, and then access to other resources that can actually help your journey, right? From the blockchain to like community and all of that, and also the support that you will get. So yeah, that's just what I have to say. Thank you, Kali.
Awesome. Yeah, I will just quickly share some experience. So my experience in community management started. What happened was I wanted to get into the blockchain space working, but at that time I had started as I was helping people get booked onto podcasts. So I was more of a marketing manager, and I didn't really know a lot about blockchain. This was back in like 2018. So I started taking some courses and learning about what blockchain was, some free ones. Um, and from there, I ended up getting experience. I started my own podcast called Blockchain for Beginners, where I was documenting my journey of learning about blockchain, and I did that for free. I used the Anchor app, and I recorded podcasts on my phone, and at that time. And from there, it kind of grew, and I was able to leverage that into some experience helping to manage Telegram communities. And from there, got into, I would say more almost like community management, where you're managing not only like Discord communities, but you're assisting in Twitter communities and other community based platforms, and kind of collecting data that community members have offered to give instead of just like collecting data randomly, and asking through surveys and polls and things like that, and then designing community onboarding systems. And all of that takes some time to learn, and you will make mistakes, but I think if you can document the process, it gets a lot easier, and it allows people to understand that you are not only interested in community management in general, which community management has been a role for a long time now, and a lot of like the biggest companies out there that aren't necessarily Web3 based use community managers. But at that time, or I would say community architect is becoming a role, especially when we pair that with like tokenomics. But I would say that was one of the biggest things, was I started to document my journey of everything that I was learning with Web3 plus community in a newsletter that I shared on LinkedIn and I shared through my Twitter. And when I learned about, okay, how do I onboard people better into a Discord, or how do I create a seamless onboarding process where people understand the channels or understand where to go next, or how do we use tokenization to create new roles and things like that, or how do we actually, what data do we actually need in order to make a community better, and how do we present that data to stakeholders. um, I would say all of that stuff is something to learn, but I think you might not get that in your first role, and you might not get that from one single course. My suggestion would be to almost become a polymath and explore different areas. So, like I said, I took a blockchain course through Coursera, and it was Blockchain Revolution in FinTech. And then from there, I took some data analytics courses so that I could better understand how data was being used. And a lot of the rest I kind of learned on the job. So, I do not have like any kind of college degree or anything like that, but a lot of like what I've done in the Web3 space in terms of marketing management and community management have been basically through my own knowledge, like learning. I would say you have to be very self motivated in order to learn and take different courses and then apply that knowledge. And the biggest thing I would say would be that proof of work aspect. It really doesn't matter to me. I would say to me, but I think to a lot of employers actually, um, where you learned it, as long as you actually know what you're doing and can back it up, right? I think the worst thing to do would be like say that you know it and then you don't actually. But if you know the skills and you can prove that you know the skills, then I think that's what truly matters, because we're kind of moving away from the old way of doing things, especially as we learn more about Web3 and being able to like authenticate our certificates and everything like that. We're kind of moving away from all of the jobs needing to have 4 years of college or 4 years of university, and we're actually really interested in people that have been self-taught and actually know what they're doing, because sometimes they make the best free thinkers that can actually blend different paths together, and they're very innovative in that way. So to wrap it up, we covered 6 career paths. The last one, very briefly, is project manager. So a project manager kind of provides the link between developers and clients. It's responsible for managing a team. So this could be a technical role or it could be a non-technical role, and you could be tasked with finding and acquiring technical leads for your project. So if you are a project manager for a heavily technical developer-based project, you will probably need to have technical skills. If it's for a different project, let's say an educational-based project where you are having to find the technical people and bring them onto your team, then you might have to be less technical. So there's different versions, and if you look at the different postings for jobs, you will see that there's a range of different project management positions in Web3 being posted, some technical and some non-technical, because you'll be able to work with people who have those skills. So tasks for a project manager could also include setting up schedules, making sure that people are attending meetings, resource monitoring, overlooking security, transaction management, overseeing team agendas, and presenting your project or how far your project has come along to stakeholders at different parts of the project journey. So for this role, you will need leadership skills. I think that's a kind of a given. You could need to learn blockchain architecture, which we will leave a link in our Discord for the Blockchain Council course on blockchain architecture, strategic planning, project development, software development. This could be required if it was one of those more technical roles. You might be required to know budgeting in some roles if you have to also budget maybe the team's financial resources. Strong problem-solving skills. Again, for a more technical role, smart contract development, you will need analytical skills, and of course, the ability to present data and projects to stakeholders. So project management is a job that I've been seeing more and more posted on job boards, and it might be something to look into. And if you are interested, I will also post a link in Discord. There's some free project manager courses, especially for individuals that are new coming into the field. There's one I know that individuals can take now, and also there's ones for veterans. If you are a veteran or have been a veteran, there's project management courses that are also available for veterans because they have, of course, leadership skills, and we would love to see them in Web3. So those were our jobs pathways today. If you're interested in any other jobs we have not covered today, please do let us know. You can always reach out to Rita, post them in our Discord, and we can cover them. And or if you like any of the jobs we talked about today, blockchain, crypto forensics investigator, Unity developer, blockchain project manager, UX UI designer, writer, script writer, marketing manager, or community manager, and you'd love for us to dive deeper into one of those areas, feel free to request that as well, and we will be sure to bring people in the field in order to interview them, and they can share their knowledge with you. So again, thank you so much for joining this space. I love doing it. I hope that you got some knowledge out of it. This will also be posted on our YouTube channel for everybody to listen back to, and Rita will be sharing that in our Discord. And again, all of the resources, everything that we talked about today, will be posted in our Discord as well. So thank you so much. And again, if you have questions, feel free to shoot them back at Rita. Rita, did you want to close with anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that for those listening to us that are writers, that we currently have our writing guild. The form is currently open. So if you're a writer and you're looking for a way to expand your network, or like you're trying to build your portfolio, kindly reach out to us on Discord. We have a form where you will fill, and then we'll get back to you. Then I don't have any other thing to say. If you're looking for resources, or you're looking for career advice, or you're looking for someone to help you review your resume, or you're working for a project, you're having difficulties, you just need a third opinion on it, second opinion, whatever, just reach out to Discord, and you always find me there. So thank you very much for joining us. We do this every Wednesday at 4 p.m. UTC, right? So just clear your calendar for that. All right. So just like Kali mentioned, you're going to get the I know Twitter Spaces expire after 30 days, right? But we'll be uploading on YouTube. So we're going to upload on YouTube, and just like Kali also mentioned, the resources she mentioned, we're going to share it on Discord with key points from the space also. So do well to join us on Discord. Thank you very much, and see you next Wednesday.